Hello, I'm Ivory. Welcome to the show today. Today's topic is being a mystic. Before I get started with that, I want to say hello to all of my listeners in Skopje, North Macedonia. So glad to have you here with me. And there's a lot of you, so I'm just delighted to have you here. You're going to be able to hear my voice does not sound the way it usually does. I've been getting over bronchitis. I went to Chicago to see my daughter, and it was during the polar vortex, and it was a little too much cold for me. I got sick. So I'll be back to normal by next week. Let's get started with this. It's kind of funny because the topic being about being a mystic, and last night was one of my mystic nights, and I didn't go to sleep till 5 a.m. because of it. It happens, and there's nothing I can do about it. So let me kind of go back here and talk about what it is. People have this idea that being a mystic is like that old image of this person sitting on top of a mountain in a lotus position with the clouds around them and they're meditating. No, being mystic is a spiritual gift, like being psychic, like being a medium, like communicating with angels, like being a healer. And it just comes to you. Some people are born with it, and some people it just happens. I really don't think I don't remember this happening to me earlier in life, but I would say about 16 years ago, maybe a little longer, it just started happening. And the very first one that happened was in a waking state. I was standing, and it looked like in India, and I was looking at what looked kind of like Taj Mahal, straight ahead of me, and in front of it was a long, narrow body of water. And as I looked at that, and I thought, what a beautiful place. I wonder where I am. And suddenly I was catapulted forward at very high speed to right before the doors of that castle. And I remember screaming because it was so fast, and I thought I was going to slam into it, and it knocked me out of the vision. And so I never did. Somebody told me later, like, oh, you should, whenever you are a mystic and you're presented with a door, you should always open it. I'm like, so if I have that vision again, I will do that. But so far I haven't. That was followed by a series of visions where I would be laying in bed, just kind of thinking about things, not sleeping. And suddenly I realized I'm in my room, kind of, but I'm not in my room. So being a mystic is about traveling to other dimensions, to other places, whether it's in a sleeping state or a waking state. For me, it's most often in a waking state. And I don't make myself do it. I can't wish it into happening. It just happens. Maybe someday I'll have some control over it, but right now I don't feel like I do. It just happens. Sometimes it's spiritual visions. Sometimes I have no idea what it is. I'm going to give you some ideas of the kind of things, like some of the things I've experienced, in case you have experienced something like this, or you know somebody who has, and maybe they're frightened, confused. Maybe they think they're going crazy. That's something a lot of people who come to see me start by, I think I'm going crazy, or you're going to think I'm going crazy. And I laugh because with all the things that happened to me, no, I probably will not think you're going crazy. So just because something happens to you that doesn't happen to everyone, or not a lot of people can relate to it, doesn't make you crazy. It means you're having an unusual experience. So most of the time they are not scary. Sometimes I find them a little disconcerting or frightening, or mystifying. A mystic who is mystified. I want to kind of go back to this one early on, 16 years ago or so, when I had a series of visions, and there's been some revelations about it since then, but I was laying in bed on my side, and all of a sudden I realized that I was looking through grass, and that ahead of me was a huge stone pyramid that occluded the part of my bedroom I was facing and went up far beyond the ceiling. And I could see sky. I could feel breeze on my face. I could smell the grass, and it was touching me. And on the side of the pyramid that I was looking at was a big carving of a lion's head. And I thought, that's interesting. I don't remember anything like that in Egyptian studies. So I had that night after night after night. And finally, one night I thought, remember, this was all new to me. So I wasn't sure what was going on, but I have like a scientist mind to me where I like to experiment. And I thought, what will happen if I reach into that dimension or that place? What will happen? So I took my arm like this and I just pushed it forward, and it felt like a tight kind of grip, but not painful, but kind of I could feel it squeezing as my hand went into it. And it didn't feel that much different inside than it did where I was. But it was an experience because I was always curious, what would happen if I stood up in that grass and I walked over to the pyramid? So I had that vision again and again, didn't have any idea what it was. Many years later, a friend, my business owner, my business partner, Roz, had done some studying, and she said, I think that you saw something from the Lyran, and or maybe it was Terry Ann, one of those two that worked with me, said this was the Lyran race, that they have pyramids, and that they are a lion race. So I guess I visited their planet, their world. I don't know if it's a dimension, a world, a planet. Again, I don't decide to go there. I just go there. So the next thing that happened after that series of visions was I was just laying in bed thinking again, and I saw something up on the top of my dresser, which was slightly to the right and about 4 feet above me. And I looked up, and there is this diamond-shaped object spinning on a tip. And it had red and blue lights, and it had like a twirl, sort of a twirling lines inside of it. And it was a square, but on the diamond point, turning, didn't make any sound, and it just turned. And years later, I was talking to some spirituality friends about that. And one of them just freaked out. She's like, oh my God, that's a Merkaba. You created a Merkaba. You saw your Merkaba. And I felt silly because I kind of felt like that poor Merkaba was wasted on me at that time because I didn't even know what it was. You might want to listen to my podcast about that. Or the Sedona Soul Sister show might have been the show we did that topic on, the Merkaba. That's the show I do with my business partner, Sedona Soul Sister show. So anyway, sometimes we see these things as mystics, have no idea what we're seeing, have no idea why we're seeing it. I never really know why I'm seeing it and what it means. So I just sort of write it in this journal. I used to call it my angel journal because it's what I wrote in, what messages my angels gave me, visions I had of angels. But over the years, there were just so many more things happening than just angels. So I started writing every unusual experience I had, including my mystic experiences. And if you're a mystic, I encourage you to do the same because it helps you realize that you are having repetitive dreams, similar dreams. The most common one that I've had since then is that I'm suddenly in like a palace, and it reminds me of the Palace of Versailles, in that there's a lot of Rococo on the ceiling, on the walls. And sometimes it'll just be like the upper corner of my bedroom, like the three walls and the ceiling are this palace. I don't see furniture or anything most of the time, sometimes. And it's just the Rococo, so I know I'm there. The most interesting experience I had with that was I was staying at my sister's house in the Phoenix area for Christmas a few years ago in the guest room. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I was in that palace, and I could see much more of it. I could see a hallway. I could see the elaborate furniture, the carvings, the tapestries on the wall. It was very, very rich, very and colorful. And I could smell, there was like a slight musty smell to it and kind of echoey. Even though I wasn't talking, there was like an echoey sense to it. And before I even thought about it, I needed to get up. I stood up and then I thought, oh my God, I've never stood up in one of my visions before. And I started walking. I was a few steps into it before I really caught myself and thought, what if I can't get back? What if I'm stuck in this Rococo place? You know, what's a 6 foot tall modern redhead going to do if people from, maybe this is people from Renaissance, medieval age, come upon me in their palace in my pajamas? So I really didn't know what was going to happen, but I couldn't find the doorknob. I headed to where I knew the bedroom door was, to the hallway, and I couldn't find it. And I could feel the Rococo, and I could feel the texture of the wall. I could feel the furniture to the left where my hand brushed across it, but I couldn't find a doorknob. And I was starting to panic a little bit. I thought, oh my God, this is what happens if you walk into your vision. Maybe you leave your reality and you're fully in this new one, whatever it is, a dimension, a world, a place, a time in history. I don't know. But I finally, my right hand came down and I found the doorknob and I opened the door. And as soon as I did, there was some light from the hallway and the vision went away. So that accidentally showed me that I can, in some cases at least, walk around in my mystic vision. And I'm really want to experiment more with that, especially when it happens at my own home where I'm really familiar with the placement of furniture, doorways. I won't trip or anything. So because most of the time when I see these, it's in my bedroom. And I really think that it's because I go into almost a trance-like state as I'm preparing to sleep, because I'm doing healing on people, distance healing on family and friends and clients who I know need it. And so I'm in that state already, which makes me really receptive to experiences like this. And there's no distractions, no other people, no noises, no TV, no music playing, no activities going on. And so it's easy to receive it. So that's the interesting one. I have to say, years ago, back in the 80s, I went to the Palace of Versailles and I had a strange experience there. And when I started seeing this Rococo, it really kind of gave me a flashback about this. I went on the tour through the Palace of Versailles. And at one point they said, now we're going to go to a Queen Antoinette's bedroom. And I turned left and started walking. And the woman said, oh, you've been here before. And I turned around and I was confused. And she's looking at me and everyone else is waiting for her to lead. And I said, no. And she said, how did you know it was down there? And I was so confused. I didn't know what to say. I just said, I guessed. But the truth was I knew. And there were other things, like I was having these flashbacks, like I've seen this before with my own eyes, not in movies, not in pictures. I've been here. I've seen this. I lived here. And so then I started seeing these visions years later of Rococo similar to that. And I don't know if it's because I spent time at some point in the Palace of Versailles in a past life. I don't know. I can only tell you I had these interrelated experiences. So some of the other things that I have seen have been, one really interesting one was I was laying in bed, just kind of on my back, and suddenly I realized the ceiling of my house was gone, and there's a second floor. It was all gone, and I was looking up at the night sky, only the center of the vision was occluded by a giant spaceship that looked like something out of a sci-fi movie, and it was not the kind of spaceships that we have on those planets. So I think it was a UFO, and it was pretty close to me, and it just hovered there for about, I don't know, maybe an hour. And it looked very battle worn. It had a bunch of marks on it and like looked like blast marks and scars, scratches and dents. And there were markings on it I did not recognize all over the spaceship. And then just night sky and stars around that as far as the eye could see. So it was like the whole ceiling and second floor of my house was gone. And I was seeing this spaceship and the sky. And I just studied as much as I could, like really looking at that spaceship, that UFO, whatever it was, until the vision went away, because it was so interesting. I'd never seen that before, and I never have again. I kind of would like to. That was interesting. What some things that have happened very recently in my current house have been some interesting visions. Like one night I woke up in the middle of the night and I realized that the whole right side of my bedroom was a crystal cavern, and it was giant amethyst crystals coming out from the wall, from the ceiling, from the floor. So I didn't really want to get up and walk around in that looked sharp and painful. And the doorway to my bathroom was, there was an opening there, but it was all crystal lined, and inside the bathroom I could see sparkling from the amethyst crystals in there, and that stayed for a few hours like that. It was very interesting. And when it went away, there was just like little small crystals floating around in the air for a while. So you can see how like seeing things like this can be really distracting from sleeping. Sometimes I don't want to sleep because I want to see what's going to happen, or I'm thinking, well, there's a reason I'm seeing it. I don't want to miss the point here, or I want to see what happens. Other times, like last night, it's more of things such as I was lying in bed and I'm still getting well from being ill. So I had that night where I'm getting my energy back and suddenly I can't sleep. So I'm laying there and it's the wee hours, and suddenly I realize, oh, this is interesting. So again, the right side of my bedroom, I was looking like from a ground level at what looked like a scene vaguely from the first Avatar movie, but everything wasn't outlined in blue lights. It was like a pale green light outline around what looked sort of like mushrooms, but they weren't mushrooms, and other things like on this forest floor, and then things growing that I don't recognize, but everything was really beautiful, quite magical looking. And I was enjoying watching that. And that lasted for quite a while. And out of the corner of my eye, I could see these things moving that looked like sort of like a slithering motion, and they were dark. But I didn't feel any fear about it or anxiety. I didn't feel like that was anything dark or anything to be afraid of. I felt like it's something that exists in whatever that place was that I found myself in last night. And they saw me and they knew I was there and I knew they were there, and it was okay. I mean, I could think they knew I'm not a threatening presence, and they seemed curious about me, like I was curious about them. And they just kind of came a little bit closer, and they were like a dark gray, and they moved like this, like a slithering, not a snake, but vertically, like sort of a slithering, floating motion. Later, after that vision went away, I still saw those things up near the ceiling for a while. And I have seen something like that before. But I want to be very clear, because maybe your visions will come like that when you're getting ready to go to sleep or in the middle of the night. Maybe not. Some of my visions have been in absolute broad daylight, out in public, which I really dislike. There's nothing worse than having this major mystic moment in a public place. So I'm going to tell you about one that really threw me for a loop. I was in a Mexican restaurant I like here in town, and I was by myself sitting in a booth. And to my left, when I came in, was this long table. They'd put like 4 tables together, and there was a large family there with babies, children. They were really noisy. And I was kind of hoping for some peace, but I thought, well, they are a happy family. I don't mind, I can tune that out. I'm glad they're all getting together. And 2 minutes later, I look to my left and those tables are all separated. The only people there are two people sitting at one table who are midway through their meal. They weren't just served. So there's no way in 2 minutes that family of 18 people with a guy in a wheelchair, babies, toddlers, could have possibly left, cleared all of that, moved the tables apart, reset it, had another couple sit there and they're halfway through a meal. And I remember hyperventilating a little bit because I don't think that's ever happened to me before, to be in a waking place like that. You want to talk about a glitch in the matrix? I felt like that was one, because that can't happen. And yet it did. And I don't drink, so I was not inebriated. I don't use drugs, so it wasn't that. But I was just out to get a lunch, just get away from the house for a bit and have lunch. And I end up having this mystic experience. I wish I could say that my visions were helpful to me in my work. I don't feel they are. I feel like there must be some reason I'm being shown these things, but I don't think I can't even think of a time that it's helped me in my life or with one of my clients. And I keep asking, please have this relate, please have the things you show me relate to someone I know or to myself in a way that will be helpful. But I do enjoy the visions for the most part. But then there are nights like last night where I was up till 5 a.m. because there were so many visions going on. Later, there was, I'm just laying in bed and all of a sudden my vision, there's like a flashing yellow light that goes out in concentric rings, flashing yellow light and like jerky rings, blip, 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 blip. That was really disconcerting. And I was blinking my eyes and it was still there. I could see it with my eyes closed. Blink, 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 like a circle with more circles behind it. Blink, 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 yellow. That went on for a while and finally, mercifully, that stopped. So honestly, there's no telling what's going to happen. Why does this happen? I feel like there are people who make it their main, who have it is their main gift in spirituality to be a mystic. And I feel like they have the capability or to either control their visions or to direct their visions in a way that is helpful for them and others. That is not my case, but I do believe there's people out there like that because I've read about them. Sometimes I have visions of people, and the people, I don't know who they are. I never know who they are. And sometimes their faces are beautiful. Sometimes they're strange. Sometimes they're scarred or damaged. And it'll just pop up and there's this vision. So I would love to tell you that I know what it's all about, but I don't. There's a lot of things that have happened to me spiritually, paranormally in my life that I cannot explain. Many things. And I'm okay with that. I consider this to be a gift. If you have it, you're not crazy. But you might want to connect with some other people who are also mystics. You might want to consult with someone who identifies as a mystic to talk about your visions. I do love it when other mystics come to see me because it's interesting to hear what's happening with them. It's interesting to hear how they're using it. I think of one of my clients who's become a dear friend who is also an angel person, very close connection with angels. And she is a mystic. I don't think she identifies as one, but she so is. She has these visions where she's suddenly with another person in need, a person in dire need, and she's with them and they can see her. They see her, she sees them, she can touch them, they feel it. She's able to comfort them. to heal them, to help them, to get them through that moment. Sometimes just being there with them so they're not alone in that moment. I think that is an incredible gift. And she's a person I would say is a mystic who's able to use it for a great purpose. I'm sure there are people out there who can teach you how to direct your vision. I am not seeking to have being a mystic be my primary gift. It's not something I've ever had a spiritual teacher try to help me develop to the highest level possible. You cannot be excellent in everything. I've come to that realization, and it's just reality a long time ago. So that's the reason that I have not pursued that. There's just not enough time. So if you are a mystic, congratulations. God has bestowed upon you a beautiful gift. You're going to have some extraordinary experiences. You're going to see things that will boggle your mind, that will put you in a state of awe, that will make you cry with joy, that will take your breath away with the beauty of it, that may disconcert you, make you feel anxious, sometimes a little frightening, but stick with it. I've actually never had a vision that was terrifying or gave me reason to be scared, other than that one where I was like zoom so fast towards a big wooden door on a castle. And that was only because I didn't understand that in a vision. So I'm telling you, if you have a vision and you have a doorway or a dream even, and you see a doorway, you are meant to open it. An opportunity is being presented to you to get more wisdom, to obtain a deeper level of wisdom. Am I sorry I didn't open the doorway? I really am. But I know there'll be another opportunity to open a door like that, and I will not hesitate. And I hope that if you also have this gift, you won't hesitate. If you have the gift of a psychic gift, mediumship, healing, I think that is a possibility that you could develop yourself as a mystic, that you could seek that. I like to ask my angels, anything that I need help with. I've been asking them, help me get over this bronchitis, and they've been doing a great job with that. But you can ask your angels to give you mystic visions. Please give me mystic visions. And you could even say specifically what you want mystic visions of. Are you really into Native American culture? Are you really into the Far East, Egyptian? Whatever it is that you want to see. You want to see other planets. You want to see other times, dimensions. Be specific, but ask your angels that if you have any ability within you to be a mystic, that they make that very apparent to you and begin to give you mystic visions. Just know you're likely not going to be able to control when they happen and how long they last. It will impact your sleep often. And I think in that way, I'm glad I sleep alone. I can't imagine another person in that situation with me as I'm going through these things. I don't know. But I will tell you this. As I start getting up and walking through my visions, I'm going to let you know in a future episode what happens when I do that. Yes, another of my famous scientific experiments. And I'll let you know what happens when I walk around, whether it be a dimension, a planet, a place in history. And I definitely will let you know what the results are, because I'm sure it's going to be something interesting. Thank you for bearing with my voice today. I'll be back to normal next week. And the topic next Sunday is signs of spiritual growth. So let's say you've been working on yourself for a while, you've been on a spiritual path, and you're wondering if you're making progress. This show will let you know specific signs of progress. Or if you're just getting ready to begin your journey, you'll know what to look for. In either case, it's a wonderful thing to know this happening. And in the meantime, may your angels surround you. May your angels protect you every moment, every day of your life. I'll see you next week.